Extreme G is a racing game set in the distant future. It was released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64 while being developed by Probe Entertainment and published by Acclaim. I have a lot of history with this one. Me, my dad, and my brothers played this so much when I was a kid. I fondly look back on using cheat codes to win every race since I sucked at the game, and was unhappy seeing my bike be tossed into the incinerator after losing. Extreme G is fast-paced, and you race with futuristic two-wheeled bikes. There are plenty to choose from. I remember liking Grimace the most because of that big grin. It's a little sillier now given the come and gone Grimace Shake memes. Now I can't recall any of the bikes in Extreme G ever being bad, but someone in my comments section recently suggested that I try to beat this game with Apollyon. I checked a couple of guides to see if this really was the worst bike, and the reviews were mixed to poor. One of the guides called it average, and the other two referred to it as having poor performances in handling, top speed, and quote, very well being the worst bike in the game. I also saw some comments about Jolt being bad too, but after trying them both out, Apollyon was definitely the worst of the two. So that will be my choice for this video. Now let's see if you can beat Extreme G using only Apollyon. For this challenge, I'll be completing all of the extreme contests on the hardest difficulty. I'll also be playing on the Nintendo Switch Online version because I need to get my money's worth out of the service I almost never use. A fair warning before you continue watching. If you're sensitive to flashing lights, this game is loaded with them. I'm going to do my best to edit them out as best as I can, but it may be difficult to do. I'll be sure to put up some text before they happen though, but if you need to skip this video because of that, I totally understand. Before I begin, I'll give you a quick summary on the gameplay and how the extreme contest works. At the start of each race, you're given a required position to place in to qualify for the next round. You get points, which vary depending on where you place. While the first race requires you to finish wherever you're told to, the spot can change in other races depending on how many points you have. Weapons and support items are scattered throughout the tracks. There's a ton of them, so I'll show them all on the screen here to save some time. The bikes have their own shield and ammo for their personal weapon that varies from little laser bullets to full beams. You can run out of ammo or shield health, but they can be replenished by grabbing refills on the track. The lower your shield gets, the more speed you lose when being attacked by other bikes. Each race also gives you 3 nitros that you can use for a significant speed boost, but once they're gone, you're out until the next track. You can also boost at the start of each race by accelerating and making sure not to max out. Finally, like any typical racing game Grand Prix, your points are totaled up at the end to determine your standing, as long as you qualify for every race. If you make it to the end, regardless if you place first, you're given access to the next contest and a cheat code to put in. But if you fail to qualify at any point, you have to witness your bike being sacrificed to atone for your sins, and you have to try again from the very beginning. Though you can revisit your Grand Prix progress through a password system. I personally won't be using it, but that's a blast from the past. Alright, now that's all settled, let's begin. The first contest is called Atomic, and as previously stated, I'll be playing on the extreme difficulty. These tracks don't have names, but this is referred to as Desert 1. For those unaware, in these challenges, I typically go in blind with no previous practice or full understanding of the game's core mechanics.
What is your problem, man? You know how to fucking drive? No.
Naturally, my first race would end poorly.
25 seconds behind. This is what happens when you lose. They just kill you. Straight to the gulag.
There was some small improvement in the second attempt. Extreme G was far different than the cartoonish mascot racers I was used to. There's no relying on luck or silly items to help you get through. This game is all about skill and speed, with some combat mixed in. You're significantly punished by hitting walls, which sucks because that's my favorite thing to do. Apollyon's poor handling stat and my poor controller handling stats were a match made in hell. But practice makes perfect, and I'd soon break free from the shackles of 7th and 8th place finishes.
No!
The next time in, I was playing well, avoiding walls, and on my way to qualify.
God damn it! Use your boost!
I would have been toast if I didn't hang on to my nitros till the last lap. Also, that cry of desperation right before I used a nitro was due to the C buttons being mapped to the Switch Pro controller's right analog stick. The down C button activates the nitro, and it wasn't always responsive. You can rearrange the controls when selecting your bike, which I would do later. Since I barely qualified, I would have to place second or better in Desert 2 to move on. This track had a lot of twists and turns, which resulted in me hugging the walls a lot. Desert 2 also breaks off into separate paths twice in the race. Taking the left side for both splits was the best possible option since they were shorter and more efficient. The right side does have a cool tunnel, but that can also result in misery and woe. Biffing that jump resulted in a 4th place finish for me, so I was promptly punished and started again from the top. It's wave race all over again.
Welcome to Sunny Beach.
I'd soon end up with a 1st place finish in Desert 1, which meant my threshold to qualify in the next race was moved down to 6th place. I'd see that challenge, and would get slightly above average by finishing 4th. Oddly enough, I was still in first place overall, leading by 1 point. Not too shabby. The third track is in City 1. It's a lot less chaotic than Desert 2, but has more narrow paths to go down. Fifth place was needed to qualify, but I fell behind way too early in the beginning and accidentally burned through 2 of my nitros when trying to use weapons. This can happen occasionally since the right C button is used for weapon attacks. If you're slightly off on the stick's position, you may unintentionally hit your nitro like I did. It's so important to rearrange your controls as not everything carries over well onto the Pro controller, which is what I did immediately after this poor performance. Getting back into City 1, I was in second with only 1 point behind first. This time, I could get 6th place or better to advance, which was great because I was playing terribly yet again, but also found myself on the receiving end of numerous attacks by the CPUs that were clearly the top of their class in the Navy SEALs, though you can't keep a mildly adequate content creator down.
Oh, it just barely got 6.
Except in the standings. Now I was in third overall with 7 points behind Blaze. My chances of winning were slim to none, even if I got first. This race was doomed, but I had to see the last track through no matter what. Industrial Mines 1 is the last track in the Atomic Challenge. I love this setting, especially racing past all the mining tools and machines. There's also a point in this track where you go down a straight but twisting path that boosts your speed, which is also the perfect spot to use a nitro boost if you need to get ahead. Oh yeah, speaking of getting ahead, this race I was mercilessly attacked or slamming into every wall I could find. Somehow, some way, in the last lap, I crossed the finish line in third, which put me in second overall in the challenge. The best case scenario could have happened if I had just got first though, but I was behind by 1 point. The game still accepted this as a win, and I unlocked the critical mass challenge, along with a cheat code to put in if I wanted. While the good job sticker was a nice gesture, it wasn't what I was looking for. So off to the Atomic Challenge I went on a quest to be the best. I put on my blue light glasses because the abundance of white lights were messing with my peepers, and then I was on the move, filled with determination. It started with the first place in Desert 1, then 4th in Desert 2, a few steps back, but they were merely baby steps. A 2nd place spot in City 1 put me back on the top of the podium. One more race and I could almost taste victory. I gave Industrial Mines 1 my very best, which was 4th place, and I got 3rd overall.
Miserable, mediocre, nothing.
My goodness gracious, this game is tough. Apollyon's handling I could get used to, but the low top speed made every race an uphill battle to keep up and stay in the lead. This was going to require a lot more out of me than I had originally thought. But like the flick of a switch, I was locked in with my Pro controller in hand and silly non-prescription gamer glasses resting gently on my face. The first 3 races saw me finishing in first. The only thing that could go wrong would be getting dead last with Gray placing first, but the chances of that are so low. I got 7th, which gave me 1 point, and Gray got first, getting 8 points, putting us at a tie in the end. Normally, I'm not a big fan of ties. However, the game clearly set me in first overall and Gray in second, so I graciously accepted this victory and moved on to the Critical Mass Challenge. Critical Mass revisits the 4 tracks in Atomic and adds 4 more. The difficulty ramps up too, and the points you need to qualify for races increase. Where in Atomic, you had to get at least 4th to move on in the first race, Critical Mass requires you to get 2nd or 1st. I was fully prepared to be sitting here for a while. My first try, I lost by frames, and I couldn't seem to get it together after a few resets. You know in the lore of Dragon Ball Z how Saiyans get a Zenkai boost or an increase in power after recovering from the brink of death? Well, if you count continuously failing at a racing game aimed at kids to adults the equivalent of a near-death experience, I unlocked my hidden potential and got first in Desert 1. This would be followed by another first place spot in Desert 2. What I believed helped the most here was using a nitro boost right before moving into the nitro curtain at the start of the next lap, causing the effects to double and putting you at near uncontrollable levels of speed. You can't use a nitro after going through the boost though. Desert 3 is next, and one of the brand new tracks. It looks more similar to Desert 1, but there are buildings and futuristic ships and equipment scattered throughout the sides of the track. Right at the start, there's this fun ramp that's just begging to be used.
Oh.
Then the paths eventually split, with the left being a little safer, and the right by the water being quicker but a little more risky. Towards the end of the lap, you drive through the inside of a spaceship that has another twisty path like in Industrial Mines. I was chilling in the middle for a while. I had enough points to qualify no matter where I placed. Near the end of the last lap, I was looking at a solid finish in third, until Strike got an item that went straight to his thighs.
And then you blow up.
The return to City 1. I'd find difficulty in trying to survive and keep the dream alive. Couldn't tell you why, but I just suck on this track. Again, I had enough points to qualify regardless of placement, but I wasn't stoked on getting 5th, because that just meant the CPUs were closing the gap on my lead. City 2 was another new track that took us into a more industrial downtown type of area. There's a section where you have to weave through buildings, and they threw this sick dolphin art on one of them too. I haven't talked about it too much because almost every attack makes the screen turn white if you get hit, but the CPU's aggression is cranked up to the max in this challenge. Don't get me wrong, they'll attack each other, but they'll also cause these insane bunch-ups with everyone attacking everyone relentlessly. I kept a solid 3rd place spot, but I think this was due to the other racers beating the crap out of each other. This still kept me in 1st place going into Industrial Mines 1. More chaotic attacks from every which way under the sun happened early on, but by the 3rd lap, I had gotten so far ahead in 1st, so my white light worries were all behind me. Industrial Mines 2 gives us a bit more of a closer look into what Steve was yearning for. I didn't find any chicken jockeys or nether portals, but there was a ramp that led to a shortcut that I was too scared to take, mostly because I didn't want to risk making a jump and falling out of bounds. No shortcut was necessary though. I got 2nd place and continued to triumph into the final race. This took me into a whole new area, Space 1. Going in, I was 6 points ahead in the lead, with Strike being the only one to rival me. The area is like a space station, with more machines and now asteroids floating around. The attacks were well on their way in the 1st lap, so I thought boosting would help me get back up to speed.
Alright, you know what? We'll boost once.
Nope.
That did not work out in my favor at all.
There wasn't a whole lot of action outside of that until the final lap. Strike was in 1st and right in front of me nearing the end, and I was packing heavy heat, ready to take him down. I halted him enough for Gray to swoop in and take 1st, which meant that Strike wouldn't earn enough points to take away my spot at the top. I finished in 3rd and got 1st overall by 5 points. Now I had unlocked the final challenge, Meltdown. This adds 4 more tracks on top of the ones we just played for a total of 12, back to back. The final test of skill and endurance. The first 3 races all take place in the desert areas. One final time, I'd have to be in 2nd or 1st to continue from the 1st race. This was no issue, because I got 1st place by a mile. Desert 2 also required me to finish in at least 2nd, and that was another blowout. I banked up enough points to only need to get 5th or better in Desert 3. Plenty of wiggle room here, unless I got attacked right at the end of the last lap.
Oh no!
That was a disappointing end to an otherwise solid run. Next time through, I got 1st in Desert 1 and 2 again, and followed up with a 3-peat. My lead was huge now, and going into my most hated track, I could finish in any spot. I still don't understand what my deal is with City 1. I guess some people don't like eating broccoli the same way I don't like racing on this track. 4th place was good enough, and still kept me ahead. City 2 would fare much better for me. Things were off to a rocky start, but by the 2nd and 3rd laps, I was far enough ahead that the CPUs gave up and beat each other up. I also got a bonus point on this one for being a good lad. This set me at a whopping 11-point lead. For the last challenge, it was starting to feel like I was taking candy from a baby with that much difference. City 3 is the first new track we get here. Where City 2 has more of an underground downtown setting, this one is above ground. This track is wide open, and there's not a lot to run into. You could take a little underground path that could be a shortcut, or you can ride up some stairs and see some of the old school buses that time left behind. Maybe both if you so choose. Not a lot happened on this one outside of some cool sightseeing. 1st place was easily mine. Back to the industrial mines I go. The first one was quite interesting. I was in a league of my own, minding my own business while in the lead for the 1st lap. That was until 8 seconds into the 2nd lap, when I just randomly got put in 2nd and didn't notice. Literally, no one passed me at all. So what the heck happened? Well, after finishing the race, Strike was placed in 1st with a 34-second lead. Reviewing the footage, that guy was bunched up around 3rd to 5th place around the time this happened. Clearly, it was some sort of freaky glitch, and I'm hoping that someone in the comments can shed some light on what happened. Despite being cheated and forced to place in 2nd, these guys still stood no chance against the almighty Apollyon. I had my revenge, and Industrial Mines too. Actually, this race was all around, and I had a pretty messy 2nd lap. Lots of running into walls, you know how I do. But even the clumsiest of fellas will have their day. Now I led the challenge with a 21-point difference. It felt like the CPUs were handing me the win without even really trying. There was something missing though. Something that happens in almost every challenge run I do. You know, the straw that takes a while but eventually falls ever so gently to rupture the camel's back? Yeah, that's Industrial Mines 3. And its weapon? Open lava pits. Seriously, I fell into these damn pits so much. What an awful thing to leave until near the end of the challenge. And if you reach this track, you're likely going in completely blind, so you better make sure that you have enough points to save you, in case this track messes you up like it did to me.
Okay. I would like to back up now.
It's also so long. Heavens to Betsy, why did they make this track so long? I was so happy that I could finish in any place here. We're into the final stretch with Space 1. I started strong and got first place. I wish I could say more, but if you're far enough ahead, you pretty much miss all the action. Space 2 was far more interesting. There are tons of split paths, and the scenery is like an alien utopia. The devs gave so much thought into this game's surroundings, and I love it. I held on to 2 nitros going into the last lap, and those helped me speed past the competition and land in another first place spot. Here it is, Space 3, the final track. I was so far ahead in the lead that no matter where I placed, I would win. So I took it easy here. This track was so cool. Grass and forests were all around, along with alien buildings and what could be homes. You get to see some UFOs flying around too. Again, I kept it cool, did some sightseeing, and didn't sweat the small stuff. I placed in 7th, which was the worst I did in this entire challenge. Finishing the challenge in first unlocks Neon, the best bike in the game. All of the stats are maxed out. It's the ultimate reward for your hard work. This trophy helps solidify my proof that you can beat Extreme G using only Apollyon. But wait, something just didn't feel right. Going through Meltdown on extreme difficulty only took 2 whole tries. I didn't feel that extreme, nor did I experience any meltdowns. After sleeping on it, I decided that I wasn't done just yet. I wanted to give you guys and myself something a little more. So I looked up some codes to see if there was anything else I could do to make things a bit more interesting. And that's when I saw it. If you enter your name as Banana, it causes all of the tracks to become, quote, extremely slippery. That was what I wanted to do. Beat this whole game on the hardest difficulty with an added bonus. So let's see how this goes. Oh yeah, now we're talking. I might as well have been slipping Jimmy the way I was sliding into walls more than before. At the same time, it strangely felt like the slippery tracks actually fixed Apollyon's handling. Regardless, it was still enough to turn this into a nice little bonus to satisfy my challenge run hunger. My first run through, I wasn't mowing down the competition anymore. I was still doing okay, but gone was the huge point gap between first and second. I made it all the way to Industrial Mines 3, where my point count was low enough to have to warrant a 4th place spot or better to carry on. Of course, an extra slippery track mixed with out-of-bounds hazards would be a recipe for disaster. In a weird twist of events, I actually made it through. I was sure that my run would be dead at the hands of this track. Well, Space 1 has now entered the chat, and they were pissed. I had to get first to make it through. For a moment, I was actually on track to win, but in the second lap, there was a huge cluster of everyone attacking each other, causing me to fall out of bounds and forever keeping me in third. The run may have died, but my spirit and drive to beat this were alive and well. That was until I made it back to Industrial Mines 3, where my new run would see another demise. But that's alright. There was no chance I was going to meet the first place requirement anyway. Third time was the charm, and luck was a lady that night. Except that was a lie because I choked on Desert 3 and failed to qualify. Well, it's like how the old saying goes, you'll get it the 4th time, which was exactly right. I annihilated the competition here. Minus Industrial Mines 3, where Gray got over a minute in first place above me. This was the same thing that happened with Strike in Industrial Mines 1. I'm so curious to find out what triggers this. The space levels were as far as I got previously, but they stood no chance. I got second in Space 1, followed by first in Space 2. For the final time, I was so far ahead that no matter how the last race ended, I would reign supreme. But I didn't want to end on a low note. That'd be lame. So I got 1 place higher than my last race in Space 3 and finished in 6th. Now I was truly satisfied, and could once again say that you can beat Extreme G using only Apollyon, both on extreme difficulty and with banana mode activated. Thank you all so much for watching. This game was so much fun to revisit after all these years. The environments are creative and fun to observe during the races, and of course the soundtrack is killer. If you've never played this game before, I highly encourage you to check it out. But if the lights are too much, you can always turn the weapons off in the races. I almost did for the sake of my precious eyes. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Also, I stream all of my challenge runs live on my Twitch channel and occasionally here on YouTube. If you'd like to check that out, be sure to subscribe or follow me on Twitch. The link to my Twitch channel, along with links to my other social media accounts, can be found in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you in the next video.
Nobody got 20 points. No one got 20 points, so I win. The game's over. No one qualifies. Nobody qualified for the race. It's 20 points. Sorry, everybody. Like, what the is this shit?